Hello and welcome to episode 56 of the Sim Sundays podcast. If you've ever raced F1, you will know who our guest is this week. Adam Sanderson, known to F1 gamers as Devon Butler, joins us for this week's episode. And it's an interesting one. It's a different type of guest that we've not had before. We've never had a sim racing actor, probably because there aren't really that many of them. And we kind of discussed that during the episode. So enjoy. Adam Sanderson. Hi.
Hello. How are you doing?
I'm doing very, very well. I've got massive deja vu and almost PTSD because this is the seventh time that we have started this podcast. But tech is working. We had the same problem with Jorrit. It's been a shambles, quite frankly, over at Sim Sundays HQ. But you're here now. How are you doing?
I am doing very, very well. How are you?
Good. Relieved that everything is going
Now, I'm glad to be back again.
Yeah, previous guest of the show. Nobody heard the episode. Adam Sanderson is back with us now. So, Adam, you are an icon in the sim racing world. We're going to dive straight into this.
I appreciate that. I don't feel it, but I appreciate it.
The funny thing is, like, your response has become more humble every time I've started the podcast with.
No, what about? I'm always humble.
At first, you're like, yeah, and what? I am an icon.
Yeah.
So, for those who don't know, tell us who Devon Butler is.
Who Devon Butler is?
We're going to start there. We're going to start with the context of why our audience already knows you without knowing that they know you.
Okay, so Devon Butler, first introduced in 2019 in the F1 games. He is a egotistical, fantastic Formula One now driver. He started his journey, we joined him on his journey in Formula 2. At first, we didn't know anything about his father, Devon Butler, it's long enough now, I can talk about it, or his sister. But yeah, in 2019, him and Lucas Weber head-to-head, you're in that fight. And then 21, Breaking Point 1 starts. That's when the proper story mode begins. And then, this latest release, F1 23, we follow Devon Butler through his journey intermittently. Again, I don't really want to give away too much of the story, what happens there, because I know it's been a while since the game got released and stuff, but it's always annoying when I'm watching things online and stuff gets spoiled from TV shows. I'm like, I'm meaning to get around to watching that.
I haven't completed it yet.
Yeah, no, exactly. I can give teasers the fact that my sister is in this next one. Not my real life sister, my acting sister. But yeah, that's in essence, that's what it is. An egotistical, fantastic Formula One driver.
And it's a great storyline. I can't think of many racing games that have such a compelling storyline. I was racking my brains before this podcast episode, and I played a lot of racing games, and I was trying to think, what storylines can I remember? And Gran Turismo have kind of had some kind of wishy-washy sort of characters that you but it's not the same. And then I was thinking Need for Speed 2 Underground. There was a bit of a storyline there, but it was 2D. It was almost like comic book-esque. And again, because of that, it wasn't as gripping, and you weren't on track with them, so you didn't care as much, basically. So I would kind of argue that this is perhaps one of the only characters in sim racing.
Yeah, I guess. I was going to say there are other games out there, such as you've got the Alex Hunter from FIFA, and you've got obviously the Call of Duty games and stuff. But in sim racing,
I can't think of any other characters that people would you'd say their name, you'd be like, oh yeah, of course, from Project Cars or whatever, because a lot of racing games are purely just about racing, which is why multiplayer is so important, because if you're racing single player against bots, there's no kind of emotional attachment because there's no character associated to them. So you play online, perhaps in a league, and you race against the same people every single week, and those storylines start to take place. So you have to create your own story layer over the top of sim racing. Now, the F1 game is the only one that has said, right, well, if you want to play on your own, don't worry, we'll create characters for you, we'll create storyline for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you've hit it on the head there. Whilst you were speaking, I was trying to think about any other, like, if there's like a Need for Speed character that I've forgotten about, but I don't think there is. we're in this phase where quite a lot of actors are delving into the video game space. Like I say this example all the time. Like you got Remy Malek, for example. One of his earliest, biggest breaks was from that horror game that I keep forgetting the name of. But it's becoming almost like a sought after job type for actors nowadays. And now I just got very, very lucky and sort of fell into it. But I wouldn't change it for the world.
Perfect segue. So we have a lot of types of guests on this program.
Sure.
Podcast. What podcast? Program sounds weird.
Brush over it.
On this podcast, often we have esports drivers, we have YouTubers, we have people from the game studios themselves, and then we have people from the manufacturers. You are the first actor that we've had on the podcast, which is
I'll take that mantle. Thank you.
Which is there's a trophy on its way, and the exciting thing is that I got to do my research for this episode on IMDb, which made me feel very journalistic. I was like, oh god, it's getting proper now. I'm gonna have to do research. I have to make notes. It's been really enjoyable. So, in your own words, tell us about the journey from young Adam to where you are now in your kind of acting career. How did it happen?
Sure.
And interestingly, how did you end up in gaming?
Okay, well, first off, you mentioned there about IMDb. Now, to be honest with you, I've been a bit slack. I haven't really updated my IMDb much, to be honest. I need to put more of my credits on there, but I'll get around to that eventually. Okay, so my acting career. So, where does it start? I guess. Okay, so my sister used to go to a performing arts school outside of her regular school hours. I did like musical theatre and drama and dance and stuff. And I was like, you know what, I want to give it a go. So I started with the street dance, started with the musical theatre, and then it sort of progressed into me doing more dance and the odd drama class here or there. But if I'm honest with you, my first career was going along the singing route. Oh. Like I was, I don't really know if anyone knows, to be honest. I was in a boy band for a while.
Can we find you on YouTube?
And again, no, you can't.
Oh, I bet we can.
So all that stuff, no, I bet you can't. No, so this... It all started when I was at uni, that kind of stuff. I auditioned for it and I got in. They wanted to push through things and stuff. And it was going really well, but I went off and did my own solo thing with another company that was going to be making their own record label.
What was the band called?
The band was called Saint Boulevard.
Saint Boulevard. Nice.
Saint Boulevard. Yeah, it was nice. The lads are great. I used to keep in contact with them every now and again, not as tight as we once were because we used to talk all the time, you know. But yeah, no, I soon came to realize that the singing game wasn't quite for me. I'm a good singer, but I'm not as good as you potentially need to be. And it's all a marketing game and all that stuff. But anyway, I got sidetracked.
What kind of music was it? I'm intrigued. What kind of the boy was it? Was it a pop band?
It was a pop band. I personally would have liked to have made different types of music. I like pop music, but I'm more interested in my voice as well when I'm singing. I got a bit of a soft rock kind of tone to it. So when they were doing songs that sort of lent themselves to that, like we did a mashup of, it started on "Use Somebody" and I sang the opening bit. I'm not going to sing for you now.
I wasn't going to.
That's another time. But anyway, that was like a little point in time, and had dreams of being a singer on stage. People singing it back to me and stuff. But no, the acting side of things. So I got scouted for modelling when I was 16, 17, and that's where quite a lot of my love of being in front of the camera sort of came from. Again, I wouldn't have pictured myself doing that kind of stuff. I was scouted at a festival, Reading Festival, great festival. And then it sort of went from there. And the acting thing sort of went hand in hand with that. And I found that it was something that was getting me regular work alongside while I was at uni studying history and politics. I was able to go to and from London quite a bit to be able to do these castings and these jobs, both modelling and acting. And I just fell in love with acting that way. I go to classes every now and again, like acting classes, because to get into the acting game, unless you want to go to stage, you don't always need to go to like a professional acting school to get a degree in it. It definitely helps, absolutely, but you don't need it. Quite a lot of directors nowadays that I've come across want that naturalistic, very... I don't know how to say it, like not untainted, you know,
not overacting.
Not to say that it taints it to go to drama school, but that untouched element of your performance, like in a way,
less conscious element where you're not considering technique
in a way, yeah,
and whatnot. You're just
you just sort of go for it, and then the director can mold you how they want to.
That's
You know,
interesting.
but again, there's many ways into the industry. I just sort of again fell into it, fell in love with it, and pushed on that way.
So okay, so you're modeling while you're at university, and you're starting to get acting jobs, and you say they go hand in hand. For those of us who don't understand why they might come hand in hand, how does modeling lead to acting?
Sure. Okay. So obviously you get the straight up modeling where you just do the clothes, the clothes jobs where it's like e-commerce, called it e-com, and then some of the jobs you have to. It does turn into a performance, because if you're not a good performer, you're not going to be a good model, because you won't be able to convey exactly what the photographer or director wants you to convey in a way.
That's interesting. I know.
Yeah, no, exactly. Not a lot of people, unless you're in the industry, put them hand in hand, because they just assume modeling is so easy. You stand in front of a camera, you look the way you do, and that's it. But if you don't convince the people looking at those pictures or the photographer that you are wearing the clothes rather than the clothes wearing you, or be it you're modeling, I don't know, like a commercial or Coca-Cola commercial and stuff, because all those people in those Coca-Cola commercials, they're not actors, they're models that can act, you know.
That's interesting.
And that's the thing, that's how it goes hand in hand. If you have the modeling aspect, great, you'll get some work like the e-commerce stuff that they want the clothes to wear you. But if you have that acting ability that can go hand in hand, you're going to get the bigger jobs like the commercials, and again it just sort of spirals from there. So that's where my love for it came from. And while I was at uni as well, I was doing like the Musical Theatre Society and in a couple of drama performances on stage, whilst again not doing a drama degree. So yeah, again, just sort of spiraled. And then my career to get my agent and stuff, I was on a casting website called Star Now. Honestly, the best piece of advice any fledgling actor I can give is get yourself in everything and anything, no matter if it's no budget, high budget, student, professional, whatever. I read a quote once from Morgan Freeman that says, you're going to be in some terrible like projects, just make sure you're not terrible in them. Because of course you just grab little bits, put them in your show reel, and then send them off to agents that way, you know, and get the jobs in that means.
So you set me up for this question. What has been the most terrible job you've done?
Ooh, terrible job I've done. Oh man, I'm gonna have to think about that one.
Is this because there's so many, or because you've been lucky?
I think I've been quite lucky.
Okay. I was hoping there was going to be like a range of absolutely horrific stories to pick from.
No, honestly, not really.
I've got
quite lucky.
Horrors. Sharknado 7 or anything.
No, I mean, there's been projects that I've been in that I thought the direction and the editing wasn't up to scratch, or wasn't great. But again, like I said, you're going to be in those types of projects where the final product's not going to be what you want. But as long as you keep putting yourself out there, eventually the good ones are going to outweigh the bad, you know? So I wouldn't say any horrendous projects, but I guess it sort of goes hand in hand. When I was living out in Milan for a bit to do modelling out there, and the model apartment I was sharing with 4 other lads, great lads, but the house was riddled with bed bugs. So that's
really weird, right? Just not to completely derail the story, but I've been to Milan once, and when we arrived on the first night in an Airbnb, the bed was riddled with bed bugs, and we had to go and stay somewhere else that night. There we go.
Might be an epidemic that we don't know about.
Milan. Stay away from Milan.
No, it's great. I loved it there. The people that I met there and the experiences that I had, I would 100% go back. But this apartment was just riddled.
Yeah, that doesn't sound nice. So, okay. So you're at university, you're studying history and politics, and you are modelling and now acting on the side. What, when you say acting, was that mainly advertising acting, or was it mainly kind of like clothes shoots that turned into acting, as you said before? Or when did you first start getting kind of, I don't know how to describe it, fiction acting, if you like?
Yeah, well, first off, I realised I may have misconstrued them. I did history and politics, but it was called American Studies.
Oh, okay.
It's just a very multidisciplinary degree that whenever I'm having that conversation with people, to cut it short, I just say history and politics. But yeah, no, so I guess with the acting side of things, during uni, most of my work was modelling and singing. The acting stuff every now and again, but again, it was like you said, the shoots, that the modelling shoots that sort of turn into a bit of acting here or there. It was really once I've left uni or starting to leave uni that I started hitting it hard with doing all these random short films that I found on random casting websites. And then, went from there, got onto Spotlight because my modeling agency was affiliated with Spotlight. So I was able to get on there. And if you aren't aware, Spotlight is basically the most prestigious, the casting website for the professional actors. You know, you have to have a certain amount of credits, have to have a certain amount of notoriety, or be with a good agent that they believe and trust you to be able to get onto it.
You can't just sign up to it. You have to be kind of invited.
You have to be vetted in a way. But so that's majority modeling, singing, and a bit of acting here or there during university. And once I left, that's when the acting sort of kicked off.
So tell us about your first short film, because this sounds really exciting. Like I've seen. I would love to say that I'm a film person. I absolutely love film. I've never managed to find well, I'm saying I've never managed to find the time. I'd love to find a lot more time to watch films. And I did go and watch Oppenheimer on Saturday, which was basically like a half.
How was that?
It was incredible. It was incredible. It was like a half day thing. But when you had the adverts on either side, it was like it was nuts. But I mean,
did you go and see it on the screen that is big enough to see it? Because obviously they filmed it in a massive aspect ratio.
I went and watched it at IMAX, and it was incredible, absolutely incredible. So my point is, I absolutely love film. I love film. I'd love to watch more, and I have seen a few short films, and they are absolutely gripping. So tell us about your first short film. Give us a taste of what it was like.
I'm trying to think about what was my first one. It was either one that was called Skinny World, or another one that didn't make it out of the editing suite.
Okay.
That I don't think they settled on a name.
Interesting.
Yeah, so Skinny World was basically about this. It's following a journey of a real person turned into a short film setting. Basically, I played the bad boyfriend who almost triggered this or triggered anorexia in my girlfriend at the time. Obviously, all fiction from my perspective, but it was based on a real person. So it's one of those things where you've got to really take care in how you portray everything and really make sure you understand every aspect of the story and the real story, not just the fiction one. That was a joy to be a part of, because it allowed me to raise awareness to something that has affected quite a lot of people close to me. But as for the other one that didn't make out of the editing suite, it was a horror that, from what I could pertain from the script, involved an extraterrestrial being that was haunting this girl, and I came in to say, no, it's all fine. Oh my God, no, it's not. Sort of thing.
Is this Mantis?
No, Mantis is my most recent short film, and I'm very proud of that one. That's gone on to win an untold amount of awards.
That's exciting.
And the director, Luigi Sabona, is he's incredible. He's a mastermind. He chats a lot, but if you listen to everything that he says, he's gonna make sure that every project that he's in is just incredible. And the director of photography, Jordan Stevens, is one of the best in the game. If you look at just look at how it was shot, and in hand with the colorist. Oh, it's beautiful. It's really, really good. If you haven't watched it, I don't know if it's on streaming sites, YouTube, whatever yet, because it was doing the rounds on the festival scene, and for a while you can't have it anywhere else other than in those festivals. I'll get back to you as to where you can watch it.
I'm looking at it now.
No, it's good.
It looks gripping.
Oh, you can see it.
So an uninvited meeting in a dusty London laundrette escalates from tone-deaf flirtation to something more sinister. But when the knives are out, who is the prey and who is the victim becomes less clear. Sounds good. Sounds really good. It's won 6 awards and it's got 1 nomination. That's
okay. Well, it's been nominated for a lot more than just that. Like, if you look at the poster that I posted on my Instagram, there's 10 or 15 different festival awards that it's been put up for. So that needs updating as well. There you go.
No, this is very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you kind of turn up to your first few short films,
sure,
what's it like as a new actor? Because it sounds to me like at university, you didn't study it, you didn't necessarily do lots of acting jobs. It was more modeling that turned into a bit of acting. How did you, when you get invited to your first film, when you arrive on the first day of filming, how does that feel?
So whilst I didn't study it or anything, I still did, like I said, the odd drama class here or there. I tried to tailor it more towards the screen side of things, but I have done some stage. And one thing that is you got to be aware of is that obviously when you're on screen in front of a camera, it's the details on how you act is completely different, first off. So stage, you've got to be as big as you can because you've got to be able to make sure that people right at the back of the auditorium can hear and see you. But when you're on screen, you've got to keep it nice and minute. For me, I like to be as naturalistic as possible. There are many actors out there that don't find that difference. And when they're on screen, they find that the directors are going, oh, this is too big. Like, you're taking up the entire frame here, not physically, but almost like you're feeling like you're overacting, and that is something to be aware of. However, it's a lot easier to rein it in than it is to big it up, you know. But going into your first short films, I mean, I went in obviously going in a little bit nervous. This is the first time I've done this type of format. I've done a few like music videos before with my more dancing, to be honest, but acting elements involved. So I sort of knew how it was going to go about, how it was going to progress. But I was more relying on just winging it in a degree, that hoping that in the end it'll get saved in the edit, as I always say. But no, it went well. But you're always going to have those butterflies, and you're always going to be asking the director, what do you want me to do? Do you want to do it better? Do you want me to do it bigger? Do you want me to do it smaller? This accent, etc., etc. So yeah, it's a learning curve, 100%. I go onto set nowadays with a lot more confidence because I've just done an untold amount of them. But it is just a matter of building it up, and you'll get there eventually.
So what I find really interesting is the progression that you've made through different types of acting, and you've kind of not arrived as if this is kind of the pinnacle. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to come. But in terms of, you know, what we're here to talk to you about, and your role as Devon Butler, it's exactly the opposite of what you started. You started out as a model with a bit of acting, then you did acting on screen, and now you're doing essentially it's voice acting. You're not actually physically on screen, but I understand that there is recording of you as you walk around. So it's a very kind of like hidden, there's a filter now.
Yeah. So first off, the beginning part of that, I always knew that I wanted to get into more acting side of things, but it was more the fact that I didn't have time to pursue that as much as the modeling was kicking off. And to be honest, I was really enjoying the modeling. Like I said, I was able to go to Milan, live out there for a bit. Cool. I was in Stockholm for a bit, which was fun, but really expensive. And it's taken me to places that it's been a phenomenal experience. But going to the Devon Butler side of things. So first off, Devon Butler is split between two people. So it's myself and Mr. Dan Benzenu. So he does the voice, I do the face. It's a very weird coagulation, but it works. So originally, back in 2018, when I got the job, I was told, well, to be honest, I was first told I was going to be a garage mechanic, but that's another story. And then they, for whatever reason, they had the voice recorded. They decided to put someone else's face, my face, over the top. I don't know why. They didn't go into why. I'm not going to start guessing on this. But yeah, so for the 23 game, I did all the facial acting, and they plonked it onto the performance of the voice artist, and then it is produced that way.
That's incredible. It's incredible. And
I don't know why they've decided to do half and half. I've asked the voice artist. He doesn't know. So I'll leave that to the Codemasters, big brains over there. But yeah, that's what it is.
Nuts. And do you change the way you act, knowing that it's because it's you, but it's not you, if that makes sense? It's obviously like the video game version of you, the graphical interpretation of you, and it's not even your voice. So like the part that you're playing is kind of like you're trying to play another person in another story with another voice and another interpretation of your face.
To be honest with you, it was a bit surreal. So I didn't actually I didn't really talk to Dan too much about his performance. I only heard about his performance and how he performed it because he did his before I did mine. When I was up in Scotland doing the facial capture and the face acting and stuff. So I did the scene, and I realised, okay, so could you let me know how Dan sort of did it so I can mold my performance to it? And they said, he did it more like this and more like this. So I said, okay, redid it again, retakes, and then that they were like, yeah, you know what, that's spot on. That's kind of what he did. And also another aspect of it that also helped mold the two together is they obviously did the texture scans. I went on my way to Glasgow to do the performance. I stopped off at Sheffield and did all the proper scans. And they had about, I don't know how many cameras, how many DSLRs were around me. 1 million DSLRs
1
around
million.
me.
Wow, you heard it here first.
Capturing. Yeah, I know. Yeah, capturing all the different angles of me. Doing all these different emotions and expressions and stuff. And from what I understand, they're going to map them on a keyboard. And if there is any gaps in performance where mine and the voice artist's performance don't match up, they sort of use those scans to fill in those gaps and fill in those blanks. Whether or not that's what happened or not, or whether that was just someone surmising what they're going to do, is another story. But from looking at the performance and looking at how the face is portrayed, quite a lot of it is what I've done. And I set up my phone to be able to record everything during that time. And I just haven't got around to editing a video and putting it out and saying, look, this is how it was made.
You definitely should. That'd be very interesting.
I really should, but I also haven't got anything from Dan's perspective because he didn't record any of his performance, from what I understand, like on a separate camera for his own use. So I'm very conscious of it being one-sided. But it is what it is. That's how it was made.
I mean, it's bizarre. So how attached or unattached do you feel to a character who has a different voice?
Oh, I feel very attached. Yeah, I mean, I'm doing so many things around the character. I'm doing promo stuff for EA and other companies and stuff as the character. Again, I have the ability to jump into character because I have acted as the character. It's not like I've not acted as a character. I'm just using my face. This time I have acted as the character. Of course, as both Dan and I have said, we would love the character to be both ourselves.
Yeah.
It is the way it is. I'd love to have full ownership, but I don't. But I do feel very attached to him, as does Dan. But in my perspective, I feel like I know I'm doing more as the character for the character going forward, because obviously I'm doing many things, as you can see from my Instagram.
Yes, you seem to be all over the place as Devon Butler, which sounds like a lot of fun. It does. It is a lot of fun. So, what do you think of the? You say you're attached to the character. Presumably, you could be attached to a character who's like evil or whatever, or has not necessarily a particularly good like story arc or whatever. But how do you feel about your character? How do you feel about Devon Butler? Like, do you enjoy the character? Do you like the character? Like, how have you when you've watched the progression of that character through the games? Like, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel great. End of the day, what I say to people is, every good story has got to have a good villain, right? You think of the best James Bond films. You don't pick the ones where the villains are a little bit lame. Not that they only are, but they're a little lamer than the rest of them. You think of those where it poses a good challenge and poses a good character to butt up against, Although, to be honest with you, thinking about it, who is the hero of Breaking Point?
Presumably, it's meant to be the gamer, right? It's meant to be the driver.
The driver, but you play as Aiden, you play as Devon. It keeps changing. Who is the hero? We just know that Devon is the villain and almost the poster boy for the game, as it were, because he's the one that's been in the most. He's the one that's talked about the most, and he's the one who has the biggest arc. I would argue. Again, I don't want to give anything away, but his mentality does shift throughout, and it's very obvious to see.
Yeah.
Trying to skirt around it a little bit.
No, it's very cool. And when you go to these events as Devon Butler, and you have sim racers come up to you and speak to you about their emotions of Devon, like what's that like? Because it must be slightly different. Like, for example, take Mantis, right? If you go out and somebody recognizes you from Mantis, it's because they
won't.
Right. But if you were at, say, the festival, for example, and whatnot, and you're like, fair. Okay, I love your character.
Yeah.
What's it like with Devon? Because presumably Devon Butler has the biggest audience of any character you've played, because you know
100%.
it's millions and millions of copies sold of this game. How does it feel when people come up to you and say, "Oh my God, you're Devon Butler," and obviously you then say, "I'm not. I'm Adam."
Yeah. No, it is really nice, to be honest. It's nice to people think, oh, it's just great to get the attention sort of thing, but it's not. For me, it's the matter of you're getting recognition for a job well done. You know, people wouldn't come up to you and say, "Oh, hi, you're Devon Butler," if they didn't like your character and didn't like the job that you've done. So it's nice. It's very rewarding. But to be honest with you, it's pretty obvious. Whenever I put the shirt on, I get recognised more. And I've recently got, I don't know if you can see, this is a Connor Sport cap. There you are.
I like it.
Strategic
placement.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. Whenever I put that on, people recognise me again. And to be honest with you, when I was walking around Silverstone or Goodwood and stuff, I got the odd recognition here or there, but also Devon Butler doesn't have any facial hair, and I do. I do kind of like it. It's easier to maintain. But yeah, no, when they do come up and have a chat about things and the game and just Formula One in general, because I've been a massive Formula One fan since as long as I can remember as well. So it's good to be able to just have a conversation, a fully fledged conversation about everything F1. It's nice. It's good recognition for a job well done.
Yeah, it's very cool. Right, so let's go back now because I want to kind of go back. Now we've kind of gone, we've dived into Devon Butler and what that's like and how it was created, etc. I'm really interested about gaming in acting and how that happened. You know, was it something that you were consciously looking for? Is it something that you were reaching out on Spotlight to people that were looking for gaming characters, or were you a motorsport fan that people knew? Like, how did it happen?
So, well, like I said, motorsport fan through and through for as long as I can remember. Like, as I've said before in other capacities, my earliest memories are holding a screwdriver, helping my dad with DIY while we heard Formula One on the radio or watched it on the TV sort of thing. So I'm a massive fan. But in terms of how the job came about, now this is going to sound egotistical, but it's just what they said. So I was on Star Now, which is a casting site anyone can get on. It's not the Spotlight. And I got a message from Codemasters saying, "Hey, we like your facial bone structure. Can we put you in our game?" So I was like, okay, fine, great.
Straight in with that. I like straight in, messing about.
Again, I didn't have to audition or anything for it, which again was making me a bit suspicious, thinking, this isn't a real person, is it? So I was going back and forth, and then I had the proper emails, and I had a call and stuff. And then, when I went down to the factory, turns out, not to the factory, sorry, to Codemasters HQ, turns out they were real. That's exactly it. Back to the factory, turns out it was real. But yeah, maybe I'm assuming they must have seen my previous work as an actor, as a model. I'm not sure. But yeah, they didn't need to go to a casting or anything. They just saw me and was like, bones.
I mean, I suppose that's kind of there's double-edged sword there, because there isn't much you could do to change your bones if somebody's like, not so sure about your bones. Like, well.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I guess they probably wouldn't have approached me then. I wouldn't have known. But also, it's a matter of, to get into modelling, you do have to have a certain bone structure. You can do as much as you want to change your physique and stuff, but if you haven't got the basic bone structure that you need to get into it's one of those things. It's a weird
crazy
game.
World, isn't it?
Weird game.
Yeah. Okay, so now that you're in the gaming acting world, what's been the thing that has most surprised you about the gaming industry?
About the gaming industry,
because I'm making an assumption here that you've kind of had a bit of an insight into it. You've perhaps had a bit more exposure to studios and how these stories are made, etc., etc. I'm just interested if there's anything that surprised you.
Nothing really has terribly surprised me. So alongside all my acting and stuff, I'm a producer, so I already do quite a lot of back of house stuff through that means. So I understand how it all works, and the gaming industry is, in terms of my involvement, is very similar to this kind of stuff that both I've acted in and produced. So no real surprises there. I guess I do kind of think that with movie acting and stuff, there's a lot more build up in terms of you get the actors on to do various interviews and appearances and all that kind of thing. One thing that has surprised me is that EA and Codemasters haven't done as much of that as I feel like they potentially could have done. I mean, the ability is there, and like as I've shown, I've really tried to push both getting the character out there and also myself, obviously, goes hand in hand. And there's so much out there that they could do with all of the characters, not just Devon, with all of the characters, to be able to both highlight the game and get more of an audience and get people more involved and almost attached to the characters and the actors as a whole, you know. So I guess it's not kind of what you were asking.
No,
but
do you know what that's an answer. Honestly, my mind is absolutely racing now because it's brought up some kind of parallels in that, you know, gaming is more mainstream a media now than something like film. And you know, any national radio station, whenever a new blockbuster comes out, like Oppenheimer or Barbie, for example, the actors, you know, the top 5, 6, 7, 8 actors, they're on tour essentially around radio stations, morning TV shows and breakfast and news shows, etc. And they do interviews about what it was like on set, how they played their characters, what they think of their characters, etc. And obviously, as you say, that builds up a hype around the films. It's interesting, actually, how that hasn't happened to gaming. And yet, gaming is definitely moving towards more story-driven experiences. If you take something like The Last of Us, for example, it's gone from game to film. And there's numerous examples of films that have gone from film to game. And so that media is becoming increasingly overlapped, and the lines are a lot more blurred. And yet the promotional activities don't seem to have caught up.
Not at all. I mean, take Last of Us, for example. That story is one of the best stories a video game has ever written, one of. And the actor that portrayed the lead role in the game did have a cameo in The Last of Us TV show. I can't remember the character's name, but he played a cameo only for one episode, obviously because we have Pedro Pascal doing an amazing job as the lead. But yeah, I feel like there's an opportunity there to not only boost the presence of the game, but like in general, if for their perspective, for the bottom line, for the budget, you know, you can boost sales. I know obviously the Formula One has a massive draw unto itself, but I mean, all the games involve Formula One racing. It's a matter of this game has something new. This game has the story mode that is not seen or heard, you know, until you play it. So yeah, that's the only surprise I can think of, that I feel like there's a missed opportunity. I mean, to be honest though, on the same thread, recently I've joined WTF1 Talent, and Mr. Tim Sylvie has been incredible in terms of doing that. He's getting me opportunities in front of all these Formula One teams. Like, well, to be honest, I've got a few things in the pipeline that I can't talk about, but is stuff that I feel like EA and Codemasters could have easily just picked up the phone and said to the manufacturers, "We've got Devon. Do you want him for promo stuff?" You know, it's one of those things where I feel like they would have been like, "Yeah, hell yeah." And I mean, obviously, James Braylant, social media manager, I believe that's his title. Sorry if I got it wrong. Has been incredible in terms of helping me out with these kind of things and helping me source like the shirt to be able to go and do these appearances with, etc. He dropped off these to the Haycar stand at Goodwood. Thank you again to inviting me along to that. That was brilliant. So there is assistance there, but I feel like it could have gone bigger. There's still a chance. There's still a chance. Yeah,
yeah. Well, I mean, presumably pretty much every year, right?
Well, I don't. Well, the story mode doesn't happen every year.
Well, that's an interesting.
Not in every single one, and we haven't had any conversations about whether or not it's coming back for 2 years' time. Would love it to. We'll see. It's just something they're focusing on next year's game for now.
Yeah, it seems to be a mode that kind of jumps, right?
Every 2.
Yeah,
would love it to, but don't ask me if it's back because I don't know.
So has this kind of foray into gaming acting done anything to persuade you to do more? Is there any, is gaming acting something that you now want to really focus on, or in your head, is it just another string to your bow?
Well, a bit of both. It is another string to my bow, and I'd love to do more video game acting because I'm a gamer through and through. I've got a Twitch channel that I've recently started, mainly doing F1, but the odd other game here or there, because at the end of the day, like, I've been brought up on video games. I can almost pinpoint memories around what game I was playing at that kind of time, you know? So yeah, I'm a gamer through and through and love to do more video game acting. But for now, it is also a string to my bow. I don't know how, because obviously sometimes when you go for auditions, for adverts and stuff, they say, "Oh, have you got anything conflicting with this?" I don't know if a video game comes up and you go, "Have you had any conflicting roles?" And if I say Devon Butler, if that's going to conflict or not, I would love for it not to, because I'd love to do.
Maybe it was like a solar panels company, or
well, no. Well, it's more the fact that within the video game sphere. So if it is for another racing game, I don't think I can do another racing game now because I'm so ingrained in Devon Butler in Formula One. So if it was to be another video game character. For a shooter, which I can do because I'm certified for firearms on screen.
Nice.
There you are. Lovely stuff. But for any other video game character, other than the sim racing stuff, 100%, I'd love to do it.
Yeah, that would be right. I'm sorry, my brain paused a second there because certified for firearms on screen. Tell us what that involves.
Well, it's a bit of a wishy-washy certification because it's more the fact that agents and casting directors can see that I've done training with firearms to be able to convincingly portray that I'm using them on screen.
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
It's. I mean, yes, I did get a certificate at the end of it, but it's not.
Is it in the downstairs
something
toilet?
You need to be able to handle? Oh,
framed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just watch it. No, it's not something you need to do it on screen, but it's more like a vote of confidence from the training facility to say yes, he can handle it safely. Because obviously that's major thing at the minute, and always, to be honest, safely and proficiently to make it seem like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
convincing.
That's very interesting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you've also kind of planted another seed in my mind, which is
left, right, and center.
The idea of a character in gaming moving between games. So imagine if something like Assetto Corsa, the next version, when it comes out, imagine if they had a campaign mode and Devon Butler has retired from F1 and is now doing GT3 on the road to Le Mans, and you could kind of carry a character's story
That would be
arc.
sick.
That would be so cool, wouldn't it?
That would be incredible. I would love that. But to be honest with you, like I said with the Last of Us, and almost with the Gran Turismo film that's coming out, I felt like there was a missed opportunity. Again, this is more for selfish reasons. The Formula One film with Brad Pitt getting released soon. Why not having Devon Butler in that? You know,
I mean,
put him in, slot him in.
It's a really, really good point. Like, why on earth not? Because
I guess it's because the profile of it isn't as large as potentially they would need it to be. But if you look at the facts and figures, like how many games have been sold of the F123 game, I reckon there's a good shout for it. Even just a cameo, like, I could be Brad Pitt's engineer, you know, tell him where he's going wrong.
Yeah, I mean that would be
nice.
Dreamy. Yeah, no, that's it does baffle me actually, and the interesting thing about that is that so many people discover F1 through gaming. I am not ashamed to say that it was the F1 game that got me into F1. You know, I
nice.
When I was younger, when I was maybe 8, 9, or 10. We would go over to my granddad's house on a Sunday, and he would have the Formula One on, and I was, one of those classic kids that was like, "Oh, this is boring, just cars going round and round in circles. I don't get it." And then as soon as I played the game, maybe like 3 or 4 years later, I was like, "Oh, yeah, I get it.
Get it now.
Now I get why this is interesting." But it took the game to immerse myself in it enough to then want to go and watch it and become a proper Formula One fan. So,
nice.
Arguably, in terms of the longevity of Formula One as a concept, characters like Devon Butler have more of an influence on the success of Formula One in the next few decades.
Your words, not mine. Obviously, Drive to Survive is helping massively, but I do see where you're coming from, 100%. I mean, to be honest, my favourite F1 game, though, has always been F1 2006 on the PSP. Loved it. But I guess it's more towards the fact that there are great memories attached to it. Simpler time on the PSP. I was young enough to not have a care in the world, but only care about the save data on my PSP. So
the memory cards.
It's
the memory cards.
Yeah, they got the memory cards. How little they could store back in the day. But yeah, no. So I guess I'll take your word for it.
Well, just my humble opinion. So the future. So you are very involved with the F1 content creator series, which is obviously a fantastic series. And it was interesting when you were saying earlier that you stream to Twitch and you think that EA Codemasters could be doing more in that sphere to get the characters together so that people could interact with them between game releases, etc. And obviously F1 content creator series is a great way of doing that. But in terms of motorsport, sim racing, gaming, streaming, what are your like plans now that the kind of, Devon Butler has become this huge this huge icon within a sector of gaming? Is there part of you that is almost considering kind of, altering your career slightly towards that way, or is your heart still set on more acting and higher profile acting, maybe not F1?
I mean, well, I'm always going to be an F1 fan for as long as I live, so I'm always going to be in and around that sphere, and I'd love for the character to still have the same relevance year on year, but obviously between releases it dips a bit, and then when a new game comes out, if Devon Butler comes back, then it will rise again, sort of thing. So peaks and troughs, bit of a roller coaster. With the F1 Creator Series, though, yes, I am fully ingrained in it, but I haven't done it for a few weeks simply because it's on a Saturday. It's very annoying time for me, but also because the latest patch for the game made my wheel stop working.
That's not ideal.
Not ideal, so I haven't actually been able to do much.
Cost you a few tenths.
No, it just doesn't work.
A lot of tenths.
Yeah, a lot of tenths. So I think they released one today, because obviously we're filming this on a Monday when they normally have the patches out. Don't know if you want me to say that or not, but I have.
We want everyone to believe it's Sunday. It's Sim Sunday.
Oh, I'm so sorry. No, yeah. So tomorrow is the release date for the patch, and hopefully that will have sorted it. But I haven't obviously booted it up yet. So I'll see. We'll see if it's worked. But if not, I'm also trying to be honest, I'm trying to partner with a manufacturer to be able to do like a sponsored kind of deal, to be able to work and get a wheel or a rig or something, because my wheel is great. Don't get me wrong. It's a Thrustmaster T300 RS.
Nice. That's what I started
with load cell pedals. Yeah. No, exactly. It's a good wheel, but I've been racing on the sims at both Silverstone and Goodwood, and I went to Ben Daly, Tim McMurdoch's house the other day, and his rig is insane. And to be honest with you, 2 laps in, I was already quicker than I am on this wheel. It sounds like I'm making excuses for performance, but it does make a difference. Like, if you can feel where you're losing the grip and everything, it makes a massive difference, and you can't really feel it too much on this one. The technology is starting to go back a little bit, and because some of the rigs out there are insane, like the pedals especially. They're the main element that gets you the time, and the pedals are mental. But as for going forward, I want to still pursue the acting side of things. I want to pursue feature film stuff. That's the end goal. But I also want to have this Formula One string to my bow, as you said earlier. I'm going to keep streaming. I want to stream more and more. I'm a partner on Twitch. I recently had new overlays made to be able to make it all nice and sweet and succinct. So yeah, I'm just going to push and see what happens. I'm still doing the producer stuff as a day job, which again I really, really enjoy. So it all goes hand in hand so nicely that I'm going to keep that going as long as I can as well. If acting takes off to a degree that I can't fit everything in, then we'll have to reassess. But for now, while the jobs are consistent but not enough to keep me going in terms of money income, we'll see how it goes.
Interesting. And I guess probably everybody in a career such as acting kind of has to make those decisions, and having this like dual revenue streams, lots of different things that you're exploring all at once makes a lot of sense. But one that I'm particularly interested in is streaming. So I'm going to admit now that my research for this episode did not extend to your Twitch channel. Apologies. I will check this out. I will check this out later. But so people who are listening to this who might watch already will know the answer to this. But when you stream, do you stream the Devon Butler storyline as you're streaming and kind of give almost like a live reaction to your own acting?
So not yet. That was the plan. That is the plan.
That does sound interesting.
It does. But honestly, I have been so busy. Like last week, how many days did I actually spend at home? I think like 2 days that I spent at home, and the rest of it I was either returning from somewhere or going somewhere else. Like last week I was up in Leeds for a 2-day advert shoot, and then on the way home, because it was a long journey, and it ended quite late, I only got home at like 5 p.m. on Saturday, and I needed Sunday to recuperate because I've not had a day off in about, it was 3.5 weeks I made up, which is crazy. So I needed that day to be able to just go, ooh. So yeah, I will do when I start streaming. Well, I try to at least stream once or twice a week. But when I've got, well, I was actually going to start it last week, but then the wheel doesn't work. So I'm hoping to get it going this week, if not next. But we'll see. We'll see.
Nice.
A lot of ifs or buts.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward. I will 100% tune into that because it'd be really interesting to see your take on your character. That would be interesting. It's almost like it would almost be like watching an actor doing like a watch along to their own film in the cinema, which isn't really a thing. It's almost like when you watch the DVD extras and it'll be like the director and a couple of people down the bottom kind of like chatting about the film as it goes, except it would be live, which would be very, very cool.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I did that for the 21 game. I made a YouTube channel and I uploaded the videos there. I spent way too long editing each one. Like the first video was a bit pants because I hadn't really had any experience editing before, apart from like self-tapes where all you do is like crop the videos together and send it off. But the last few videos, editing's on point, but it just takes too long. I spent like 10 hours making these videos and they only ended up being like 12 minutes long.
Yikes. Yeah.
So it's one of those where it's if I had the time, absolutely, or if I could find an editor that has a really good day rate.
Well, if you're listening to this podcast and you want to be Adam's editor for some very interesting videos, then get in touch. I do not think you'll have any difficulty finding an aspiring sim racing streaming editor to help you out with that, which would be a great project to watch. Adam, thank you very much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. And I really appreciate the 7 takes we did last week. And it's been really, really great. If people want to follow your journey and your successes, where can they follow you on the internet?
Beautiful. Thank you for including us. So Instagram at Adam_Sanderson. And that's the same with Twitch, actually. But I guess you can also find me in Breaking Point.
That was beautiful. All right. On that note, thanks, Adam. Bye.
Cheers, Tom. Bye-bye.
So there you go. The first actor that we've had on the Sim Sundays podcast. It was really interesting chatting to Adam about his career and kind of how he got started and how he kind of fell into acting and then made his way over to gaming. I really enjoyed the conversation. So thank you, Adam, for taking the time to chat to us about your journey, especially your journey as Devon Butler, the sim racing icon. Thanks as always to our sponsors, Trak Racer, for sponsoring this episode and the last 56 episodes. And of course, if you want to follow us, you can follow us, the Sim Sundays podcast. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under Gridfinder. Thank you very much.